Morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone. Thank you so much for being here, for stopping by, clicking on the video, and being ready to enjoy some good music alongside with me. Thank you so much for being here. Let's go ahead and take in a full album listen for our Long Song Saturday today. And that's going to be The Age of Plastic by the Buggles. And I believe I'm now pronouncing that correctly because I believe before I was messing that up a little bit. This will be their debut album released in 1980. Of course, we're slightly familiar. Jeff Downes, Trevor Horn. We've listened to a little bit of Yes on the channel. We've listened to a little bit of some of the music that they've put out. Kind of, not recently, but kind of recently-ish. We listened to Vermilion Sands from their next album, and I really liked that. So I just figured, you know, at your suggestion, why not come back down here to their debut album? Now, this album had been suggested to me by at least these people: Alejandro Bojorquez, AK, James Atkinson, Tron Sader, Adrian Koch, James Warner, and I do know that there's many others, but it gets a little confusing, and I'm not quite sure if the people I mentioned from here on are actually people that have recommended the album, or if it's just people that have said it. Asterisk, Rick Benbow, Del Little, Joe Marone. I want to say that you guys also suggested it, but I'm not quite sure. But so that's that. So off of this album, I do know that this album, as the second track shows, it is "Video Killed the Radio Star," which is a very popular track. I don't know if I've heard it or not. There's always a chance I've heard it because a lot of you guys have mentioned it. Even I know of the title of the song, but I can't tell you if I've actually heard that song or not. So obviously when we get to that, we will find out. But in the meantime, we'll begin where we should, which is at the beginning, which will be the first track, The Plastic Age. Before we dive in, just press that like button for me. It helps a great deal in recommending this video, these channels, to other people that might enjoy it as well. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you'd like, you can go ahead and sign up on Patreon for as little as $2 a month as well. But for now, let's go ahead and take a sip of our, well, I'm taking an iced coffee, simply. I like it because it's not that sweet. But you can take a sip of whatever you're sipping on. Now let's go ahead and sip on In the Plastic Age by the Buggles. Here we go. I love the stand-up bass-esque bass line here. Leave it with a heartbeat. Oh, the cardiac arrest. I just got that. You can't start off any better. You can't start off any more promising than that. You wanted to lead me to the promised land? We already in it. That is the best opening track I've heard in a little bit. That sets a perfect stage. It's an excellent piece of music. There's so much going on in here. I love the wordplay, especially with like the cardiac arrest part. And at the end of the track, we actually have a heartbeat-esque rhythm slowing down. Cardiac arrest. I love that little bit of tying it together as it moves on to the next track there. The bass playing, especially at the end, was phenomenal. The woman singing in this beautiful operatic voice was just awesome. I'm assuming that that's Tina Charles on there, but don't quote me on that. I'm just looking at the names here and its background vocals there. That felt like a mini journey on its own. That felt like a Gary Newman-esque journey, sci-fi, maybe dystopian story, but with a little bit more of a playful cartoon-ish manner. Lots of depth, which I would expect from Horn and Downes, but oh man, this is the type of first track that gets me excited to go on with the rest of the album, and it really perfectly sets a scene. I'm probably going to mention it many times throughout, but the depth of synth tones, sounds, atmospheres that they bring in throughout are just incredibly playful, useful. it covers so much ground. It gives it a much needed depth. I think that's fantastic. Singing, horns sounded great. Trevor's doing great things there. Like I said, the bass playing by him as well is just, I mean, there's nothing in here I'm not happy with. There was a little bit of guitar that came in, I want to say halfway or somewhere around that, and just kind of added a little bit of a human touch to it. Even though, as far as I see, everything in here is like, there's no drum machines or anything. You have Richard James Burgess on the drums, and then I guess also Paul Robinson on drums. So I really like how they approach this plastic age in their music while giving it some human touch and some lifeblood. Oh, this is going to be good. I'm already feeling it. Every day my metal friend shakes my bed at 6 a.m. Then the shiny serving clones run in with my telephone. So this is the introduction into the world. Shiny metal friend, of course an alarm, waking him up. And then shiny serving clones running with telephones. So not only does this person have clones, I guess, of themselves or perhaps other people that are serving him, I guess, or whatever it may be, but they're all bringing him phones. This is a busy man and perhaps a businessman. Talking fast, I make a deal, buy the fake and sell what's real. What's this pain here in my chest? Maybe I should take a rest. So buying the fake stuff and selling what's real. They send the heart police to put you under cardiac arrest. And as they drag you through the door, they tell you that you failed the test. So once again, I really like that line. The heart police are coming to put you under cardiac arrest. And you failed the test. What was the test? Living in the plastic age, perhaps you're not supposed to have anything real or organic in you anymore. It's the plastic age. I don't know. I feel like there's like a strong dystopian vibe to it. Living in the plastic age, looking only half my age. Hello, doctor, lift my face. I wish my skin could stand the pace. In the bed, I read my mind. Remember how the mice were blind. I watch them fighting in their cage. Could this be the plastic age? And then it just repeats the chorus from there. So while I'm not quite sure what's going on in this sci-fi dystopian scene, there is something. It says here, Buggles keyboardist Jeff Downs said the song's lyrics were a person's perspective of plastic experiences from watching and reading media about the Vietnam War. Considering the Buggles intended themselves to be a plastic group, this seems to be a fitting opening track. See, I would have never even thought about the Vietnam War, looking at the lyrics, to be honest. Looking at some of the information for this particular song, it peaked at number 3 in France, 16 in UK, 27 in the Netherlands, and 17 in Belgium. Let's see, it says that the lyrics are also a commentary on the coldness of the culture of plastic technology in the 1970s. Okay, so there's some different directions that I guess the lyrics can go, but I guess it does make sense, you know, with the band kind of being like plasticky in a sense, the actual album, The Age of Plastic. That all kind of comes together really nicely. That was an awesome track. Let's move on into the next one, which is Video Killed the Radio Star. If I've heard it before, if I recognize it, I'll let you know after, but, you know, we'll see how it goes. Here we go. It's not sounding familiar at all so far. I really like the beginning and the ending of it because, especially the ending, it's like a reprise of the song, but just in kind of this instrumental, electronic, symphonic kind of way, which I thought was really nice, like a nice way to bring in the piano, these synth strings and everything, and then eventually the sample of the singer there. All right, so I don't recognize the verse, but I do recognize the chorus. So this is probably a song that I've heard in passing at some point in my life, but yeah, so it's kind of like one of those half first listens where I've heard part of it, but I haven't heard a part of it. So where do you even begin with this one? I love the beats. I love the contrast in volume in a way. So how low Horns is singing in the verse, right? And then you get the oh, oh, and then that kind of brings it up into the chorus. I like how who was singing that. I meant maybe it's the same lady that was singing previously in there, or maybe not. I'm not sure. No, it's going to be Debbie Doss and Linda Jardim, who, by the way, them and the song was kind of giving me a little bit of a B-52s vibe, but you know, don't push me on that. But I like how they pretty much signaled like the uproarious chorus, because like I said, the verse he's singing. And I like that pacing that he sings along with the music. And then she comes in, and then I think that's really cool the way that comes in and goes about. Here, the verse is a lot emptier than what we got in the opening track. But I like how that empties for us in order for us to fill it with so many more electronics, big sounds later on to come in. This is a cool track. I just really already know that this is going to be a really cool album to listen to. And then there was some kind of cool production going on as well, which I would expect in an album like this, and with the alumni that we have here in the Buggles, I would expect some strong production, and that is definitely what we're being given. Let's look at these lyrics though, because I think they're kind of interesting. I heard you on the wireless back in '52, lying awake, intently tuning in on you. If I was young, it didn't stop you coming through. They took the credit for your second symphony, rewritten by a machine on new technology. And now I understand the problems you could see. So, just as the song title is "The Video Killed the Radio Star," I think that this song is really coming down to the evolution of technology and how some things go to the wayside. You know, old technology is thrown out and new technology comes in because it can do what the old stuff could do, but better. So yeah, video, in a sense, this is my interpretation before I look even deeper into it. Video killed the radio star, just like music videos, in a way, probably kind of not killed off, but definitely weakened the radio, because now you could have the visual and the audio instead of just the audio, I can imagine. Video killed the radio star. Pictures came and broke your heart. Right there, that line, pictures came and broke your heart, is the summation, I would say, of this particular track. And now we meet in an abandoned studio. We hear the playback and it seems so long ago. And you remember the jingles used to go in this one. So I like how the female singers there kind of act as like memories of a wonderfully nostalgic past. And actually the lyrics just repeat from there. Of course, Video Killed the Radio Star was inspired by the J.G. Ballard short, The Sound Sweep. Let's see. A little known fact is that the song was originally recorded by Wooly's band Bruce Wooly and the Camera Club. This version has slightly different lyrics and lacked the characteristic Okay, so this is technically a cover. It says here on Wikipedia it was recorded concurrently by Bruce Wooly and the Camera Club, with Thomas Dolby on keyboards apparently. Okay, that's kind of interesting. How did that come about? Is that kind of like when movies of like similar topics somehow like come out around the same release date? Like you had, what was it, Armageddon and Deep Impact? Remember that? Remember when those two things came out? There's another example. I can't think of what it was right now, but there was another example of that happening. It says the track has been positively received, with reviewers praising its unusual musical pop elements. Although the song includes several common pop characteristics, Downs and Timothy Warner describe the piece as musically complicated. Well, yeah, you can definitely feel and hear that just by, like I said, the amount of work that they're all putting in. There's a long article about this about this song and all the background on it, the reception. It says a later, more detailed demo of the song featuring Horn's then-girlfriend Tina Charles on vocals was recorded at Sound Suite Studios. It became the blueprint for the final version and helped the group to get signed to Island Records to record and release their debut album. So this was, in a way, their entry ticket into the studio, into the record label, and being able to record their album. So that's always the kind of response you want. You know, when you're putting your energy, your musical, your creativity into it, you want it to be fruitful when you put it down like that. It says that, for this is directly from Horn, I'd heard Kraftwerk's The Man Machine and video was coming. You could feel things changing. That's a good album. You guys already know I love that album. All right, let's go ahead and move on into the next track, which is Kid Dynamo. Not Kid Dynamite, but Kid Dynamo. That Good Times is such a good show. All right, here we go. A little harp there at the end. Dynamo is just a very exciting, adventurous track. It is incredibly catchy. I love how you know what it feels like to me? It feels like riding a horse. Never been on a horse, but it feels like riding a horse. Kid Dynamo. And it's just so exciting. It's just like, get up and go. It feels like just rushing. It feels like just trying to get to wherever you're going as fast as you can in as much style as you can. I don't know if it's horn or Downs that's singing in here because the vocals are kind of like vocoded, and I do see that Downs is credited with vocoder, so it could be Downs. I'm not quite sure 100%, but I really, really enjoy the effect that adds into it. The synth strings are just like popping off very much. I love the double time in the drum as well. Like this is good. It's so good, as a matter of fact, that I am burning up. It is getting hot in this room, even though I'm drinking nice coffee. All right, that's a little better. I was starting to get hot. But yeah, this was a very, very awesome track. I like how it didn't slow down any, like in the album track listing after video. I like how this is, as a matter of fact, kind of doubled and turned up the tempo and the speed and the heat and the temperature at this point. That's good. That's a cool album, huh? When did I say that this was released? 1980? This sounds like on the cutting edge, you know? This is cutting edge. Though today you might be riding the engines of progress, working in the media factory, call me if you ever feel like letting go. And we'll remember the days of Kid Dynamo. Swimming in the sound waves, that's a great line, of the playback from the 8-track, I think your mind was born with water wings. And now, when I see you on our generation screens, I remember the dreams of Kid Dynamo. All that we said of how the media builds stars and our minds won't change, only our cars. Kid Dynamo, Kid Dynamo. Because I invented you. The hours I spent with you, because I invented you. I remember you. So is Kid, I don't know like the story, the concept exactly of the album, if there even is one. I'm just kind of taking guesses out here. Is this kind of like a technological Pinocchio where like he built a robot, a machine, and he's kind of looking back on it, swimming in the sound waves of the playback from the 8-track. I think your mind was born with water wings. I'm not sure. That I don't know. I don't know how literal or metaphorical some of the lyrics in here could be. Let's see if there's any information if I just type that into the Wikipedia article. Let's see. Kid Dynamo is about the effects of media on a futuristic kid of the 1980s. So that's what it's about. Why was I thinking technological Pinocchio? Like, you built a robot. I don't know where I got that from. All right, let's move on into the next track here, which is going to be the final track on the first side, I Love You, Miss Robot. Here we go. Is that good or bad? Don't drive too fast when you take me home. Besides the opening track, this is the best track on the album so far for me. I know we're only halfway through, but this is drenched, swimming, drowning in ambience and subtlety and electronic bliss. This is a magical piece of music. I love their singing, both of them together, vocoded, real. Sounds great, the combination and the contrast between it. And then those big moments where, I don't know who, but the female vocals come in, and alongside of that, the big drum sound and the rising in synths, the and then immediately come back down, give it a rest, give it a rest, give it a rest. Like, it's just a beautiful moment. Now, here's what I'm thinking, because lyrics, it sounds like it's a love song between a guy and a robot, right? I love you, Miss Robot, electronic tease, I love you, Miss Robot, programmed just to please. Oh, she just a love machine, and you don't work for nobody but you. You make love like a metronome, don't drive too fast when you take me home. Touch the seam on your silver skin that feels so hard when you take me in. I love you, Miss Robot, love you, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so what I think, because obviously him and the robot are about to, I'm not going to say that, but uh, uh, it's such a good joke, but I'm not saying it. Okay, him and the robot are about to mingle, right? But what I thought, this is my interpretation, when she's doing the in the break in that section, he does it too along with her, which I kind of interpret as them like, okay, now they're loving each other. I think that's kind of cool. All right. It says that this song was not released as a single, unfortunately, because it's worth it. The song is, according to Downs, about being on the road and making love to someone you don't really like. Although music critics consider the song's subject having to do with a robot. Well, who knows more, the artist who wrote the song or the audience who interprets it? Honestly, a case could be made for both. So obviously I have the second idea there, but I guess it does make sense with what he's saying there as well regarding the actual song itself. All right, let's move on into the second side of the album. We're going to open that can of mechanical worms with the first song, Clean Clean. Here we go, guys. Because that's how I'm going to keep it on the channel.
Some sleep, driving all night out of fear. Got it in the ribs every time it.
They add in the bubbles.
God, you know it's hard to keep the fighting clean.
Excuse me? Okay, with Clean Clean, the song started off in a way that I was not expecting from the Buggles at this point. It's kind of like a almost straightforward, I don't know what you would say, but like a straightforward rock and roll track with some very, very much driving guitar, cool bass line, great singing. It's just, to me, this is the type of song, at least in the verse, that is just like roll the top back, pull up the sunroof, go for a drive down the highway, enjoy the wind flowing through your hair on a beautiful summer day. That's what the track exemplifies to me. And it didn't really sound like what we heard before, because there weren't like really a lot of electronics or keyboards going on, besides a little bit of organ, right? I'm like, okay, that's fine, it's cool, we're just driving, it's a cool song. I like how it's taking a different path. However, as we approach the chorus, kind of like the exit for a turnpike, then we get back to the Buggleisms that at least I would come to expect. Then it begins to show its character. Then it begins to show its face a little bit more. I love the clean, like the vocals that come in, that little synth line that weaves its way in, however it went. That's when the small little parts of the character show up, right? And then I actually really love that a lot. I will, however, admit to you that when we got into what I would describe as the Man Machine Marching Band section, the little break that completely kind of threw away and shifted away from the verse and the chorus, and we got into, I don't know, what I'm going to say are quasi-synth horns and this tuba kind of sound, I actually didn't like that. Not only did I not like how it transitioned, but I didn't like what it transitioned into. So that part honestly just kind of fell flat for me. And then it got back into the chorus. Then we threw on another different ending, bringing in some more electronic elements, which was fine. But I actually really, really like this song. But I will actually tell you that, like, I don't know, that little marching band section kind of like spoiled a little bit of it for me. I didn't like that at all. But I loved the rest of it. So I'm like 75. I'm probably gonna listen to it again and be like, it's great. And I can just ignore that part, or I'll enjoy it, or one way or another, but I don't like that part on the first listen. Pogo Johnny kicked me in the head, aiming for the floorboards, but they picked me up instead. Through the ringing of the night before, said the engine's running, gotta pay a call. Johnny drove the half truck cause he couldn't find the Jeep. Wake me in the morning, gotta get some sleep. Driving all night out of fear, got it in the ribs every time we changed gear. So they're traveling, perhaps they're kind of tightly packed together. I'm going to take a ride, going to pick up the team, going to go where we've never been. God, you know it's hard to keep the fighting clean. Pogo Johnny going to fight the war. Chaplain in the morning at the local liquor store. Pogo coughing bad from diesel fumes. Johnny tell the chaplain go and polish his tombs. I guess he's on his way out. Lying on the waste ground with a blanket on his face, indicating that he's left the human race. Helmet open where the world came in. Got to keep your head if you want to win. Well, apparently he lost his head. So apparently there was some fighting. maybe there was a fight that broke out at the club or something, and he got a head injury and he died or something. Either way, he did not make it out of there. Says that, let's see, although what seems to be another 1970s new wave runner about a young Brit's conflict with the system, the Buggles try to fit the song in the age of plastic, about fighters dying from diesel fumes from a bunch of half tracks they're driving. What's a half track? Is that like a railroad track? I'm looking it up real quick. A half track is a civilian or military vehicle with regular wheels at the front for steering and continuous tracks at the back to propel the vehicle. Is that just a tank? Is that all that is? No, these aren't tanks. I don't know. I mean, some of them look like tanks. All right, it's like, all right, think of a half tank, half truck. I guess the front half is a truck, and maybe that's why he said half truck earlier in the lines. Oh, okay. So okay. I get the references. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I get the references there. Looking at some of the information for this track, it did peak at the UK singles chart at 38 and West Germany at 60. Let's go ahead and move on into the next track here, which is going to be Elstree. Elstree. Here we go. I like those keys. I like the back and forth in the rhythm. Elstree is, to me, like, it sounds like a joyous, boppy, disco-esque kind of track with a lot of synth strings. Very catchy. Elstree. I don't know what an Elstree is, but but it's something. Like, very catchy, pretty straightforward. A few twists and turns, but nothing too crazy. Nothing risky. Here's what I'm getting to with this track. I think it sounds good, but it is the weakest to me on the album at this point. I like it. It's cool. It's very much passable. It just doesn't hit me. You know, sometimes a song needs to hit you. This one doesn't hit me in the same way the others have, which puts it at the bottom because every track has hit me in some way. This one I was just, honestly, this is a weird opinion. I enjoyed it, but at about 2 minutes and probably 30 seconds, I was kind of done with it. I was ready for it to be over at a certain point. So it's not bad. It's just it didn't connect with me for some reason. It's just kind of, it's whatever. I do like the piano playing throughout in it. I will say that was really, really nice. And I think it did have a nice substantial amount of drama in there, especially singing. There was good emotion. Like I said, it's not like a bad song if I could view it objectively. I just didn't connect. And I like all the movie references as well. I had a dream on a back lot and saw my life like a long shot of smiling faces and a picture parade of all the stills from the films that you made that we would see in the El Soldo after drinking coffee at the Gioconda. Elstree, remember me, I had a part in a B movie. I played a man from history. Elstree, look at me. Now I work for the BBC. Life is not what it used to be. So perhaps he's talking about, you know, a friend of his or maybe a romantic partner, and life has just gotten in the way and now they've moved on to other things. But he's like, don't you remember me? I was that extra in the B movie. I took no dives in the fight scenes. I had a stuntman, kept my suit clean. There's no technology to fake up a song. They stop the orchestra if you get it wrong. Like, everything's real about him, basically. They made a field into a war zone. I beat the enemy on my own. All the bullets just went over my head. There's no reality and no one dead in Elstree, remember me. Let's see if we can figure this one out, because it does have a Wikipedia article. Let's see, it did chart as well. This song hit number 55 on the UK singles chart. It says, Elstree is a tribute to the UK film studios Elstree Studios. There's your answer. It follows the story of a failed actor who, according to Wavemaker magazine, is taking up a more regular position behind the scenes and looking back at his life in regret. You wanted to be the star, but you ended up being... I should have thought of something before. You wanted to be the star, but you ended up being the Black of Night? No, that doesn't make sense. I don't know. You wanted to stand out, but you're in the background now. It says Jeff Downes performed an old-sounding grand piano and a mini-moog in the song to emulate an oboe. So that's where you get some of those little symphonic touches, those synthetic symphonic touches. Let's go ahead and move on into the next track, which is going to be Astro Boy and the Pearls of Parade. Wasn't Astro Boy an anime or an old manga? Let's go. Here we go. Really great bass. That chorus is so good. Really where the guitar comes in. Astro Boy is a great second to last track on the album. This is part of what I really like with the Buggles, is even in their more upbeat, up-tempo songs, like where it's like just sending it all, you have a lot of depth in their electronic knowledge, and they're coming together with horn and downs. I think that they just have a certain magic together, and I'm getting a lot of that here. So you have a semi bossa nova beat behind there with just that shaker and the kind of like is it clavinet, like that kind of sound back there. I can't remember. Why can't I remember what it starts with C? Not clavinet. No, it's something else. Anyways, I just really like that atmosphere behind that. And then you have a gentle breeze of synth just flowing through. This song, as a matter of fact, as a whole, is like a gentle breeze on a beautiful day. And occasionally, there'll be a little bit more of a powerful gust that comes, but it's a refreshing kind of wind. And in the chorus, when it gets into the Astro Boy, the way that breeze comes in, that gust of beautiful mellow electronics and melody, just lifts everything for a moment, and then it collapses and rests just like a breeze. It goes away. Then Astro Boy brings it right back up. I mean, that is just sensational. I just really look forward to that moment every single time. And then, I know I've talked about it before, but Horn's bass playing is so abundantly exemplified in this track. Because of how subtle and mellow it is, it allows more space for him to be heard. Not that he hasn't before, but now, I guess that it's just sensational bass playing. And even though his bass playing in a lot of the song is busy, in no way is it so busy that it takes away from the mood of everything. You don't want to distract. You want to enact. And I do think that he enacts and enables the atmosphere and the mood to just grow so organically through his bass playing, while add a measure of rhythmic excitement into it. All of those wild American bilinguals who talked to you in Paris of their lonely lives. School days and lost days out there in the Midwest, they'd climb on their liners to rejoin their wives. Walking down boulevards, electric eyes would gaze at the waveforms and gasp at their size. Let them be lonely and say you don't care. Astro Boy, watching the proles on parade. Not bulls on parade, proles on parade. No idea what that means, any of it. So, looking at the Genius, actually, interpretation, the term proles originated from George Orwell's book, 1984. The term is short for the Marxist word proletarian, meaning the working class, thus making proles working class members of the novel's setting who were blissfully unaware of how dire their situation is. So once again, kind of getting into that dystopian, kind of Big Brother kind of mood. Which now, looking at the lyrics, it makes a little bit more sense. Not a lot, but a little bit more. Ula with blonde hair would stand by your side, and the friends who were hungry could swallow your pride. Chromium headsets, their video screens would show pictures of helplessness owed kings and queens. Radio stations, their faders and dust, all their transmitters are crumbling with rust. Let them be broken and say you don't care. So looking at like that little blurb we read, and then some of the lines here like radio stations, their faders and dust, obviously they're not being used. Transmitters crumbling with rust. So like a radio station's media has kind of been shut down, probably except for, I've never read it in 1984, so like whatever Big Brother that one power is, and they're going to kind of tell you what they want to tell you, and you don't have any other choice. The bridge, let them be broken and say you don't care. So maybe there's a numbness that's washing over the population over this, and they're just allowing this to happen instead of maybe trying to enact some action. So that's what I kind of get out of it here. Let's move on into the final track of the album, the ending, which is going to be Johnny on the Monorail. Kind of like over here when you go to Disney and you hop on the monorail. It's kind of fun. Here we go. Sounds like the monorail coming in the station. Nice change.
Riding on the monorail,
You know that came in nice. Was that a dog at the end? What is a dog doing on the monorail? Get him off there. No pets allowed. I feel like Monorail kind of takes everything that we've had on the album and brings it to a nice conclusion, brings it to a nice wrap up. It takes, of course, as you heard, the energy that we've heard from some of those more upbeat tracks and just turns it up. But then it also has a lot of the atmosphere that we've had, especially in the break when the guitar and the piano are introduced. That kind of stops everything, the energetic cause and uproar that was happening before, and just kind of takes that monorail and pulls it into the station very nicely, allows some new passengers musically to get on. Then we continue gently on our way before we pick up steam once again at the end of the track. I really like the once again female vocals of the Johnny rides the rail. Just adds so much atmosphere. So just to reiterate, because I think they've added a ton into this album, Tina Charles, Debbie Doss, and Linda Jardum on the vocals and the background vocals. And I just think that they've done a stellar job of adding so much mood and atmosphere and vocal levity into the album, I would say, because they bring a certain kind of lightness into the music. Not that, Horn or Downs aren't singing light, because a lot of times they are. But I think they just add a different kind of perspective. It's good to have a male voice, but then also a female voice. It just adds a different dimension. And I think that depth is perfectly established in here. I like the moments where the guitar comes in, even if it's just like a quick chord distorted to kind of sustain and add a heavier moment. I think that does a great job as well. I ain't going to talk about the bass playing because you already know what I'm going to say. But I like how this is an adventurous conclusion to the album. As we've traveled through many different worlds and places, I think at the end, being on a monorail is kind of fitting. Down, down they pause, then walk away. Even in the streets, your feet don't move. See their faces through the perspex, turn to stare back up at you. Your eyes are green and mine are blue. In the subway darkness, I'm watching you. Oh my, you are so sci-fi. Will you please let me ride? He's still talking about riding the monorail, right? Johnny riding the monorail, Johnny riding the monorail. You know that life is terminal. It's the Paris Pullman in your mind again. Eyes like cameras move their lenses. Take this dream I offer you. All we cannot see we call invisible. Tracks that move on pylons through the sky. Oh my, you are so sci-fi. Will you let me ride? Could be about the love of a person, another passenger that he's seen on the monorail, and the way that he says looking up from below. So you're looking up at the monorail, and perhaps you could even argue that maybe they're in a different class. If we're taking the sci-fi dystopian kind of vibes even further, maybe they're in a different class. It's an Aladdin situation. Jasmine's on the monorail riding in the upper class, and you're down here. What are they called again? Whatever the term was. Like, you're down here, the working class, and you just want to talk to your Jasmine up on the monorail. Or he could just also be just dreaming of literally riding the monorail and perhaps achieving some sort of success, getting out of his particular bottom of the hierarchy established in this particular world. Anyways, really fantastic album. I think you guys already are going to know what my favorite tracks are. I think my favorite track on the album, I know my favorite track on the album off of first listen is I Love You, Miss Robot. And then I would go Living in the Plastic Age probably right after. Those are my two top tracks. I really, really enjoyed that. Bottom track would be Elstree. just because it didn't hit me in any way, while the other ones at least did. Oh, and it was called Proles. That's what it was, Proles on Parade. All right, so thank you guys so much for listening to the album alongside with me. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you didn't at the beginning of the video, which I can't imagine you did, press that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you want to support the channel and what I do and you enjoy these full album listens and other stuff, you can support the channel over on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. Otherwise, please enjoy the rest of your day. Come back tomorrow. Come back next week. We do a long song Saturday every Saturday. And otherwise, that's it, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.